When I was secretly struggling with food, the problem wasn't a lack of information or knowledge. Like most other dieters, I probably knew more about nutrition and exercise than most other doctors. The problem wasn't a lack of willpower either. After all, I'd made it through medical school. In fact, most of the chronic dieters I've worked with over the last 20 years have loads of willpower. They often weigh, measure, count, and log their food and exercise, something other people can't, don't, or won't do. It turned out that the problem was more complex than what I was eating, as it is for most of the people I work with now. You see, I was trying to control what and how much I ate, but I often craved foods that weren't allowed or that would cost me more points. I just assumed that meant there was something wrong with me. Back then, we didn't have a term called food addiction, but I think that's what I would have said. I also called myself a stress eater. I ate when I felt overwhelmed and I ate when I was bored. So whether I had too much to do or not enough to do, eating seemed to fix it, at least temporarily. When I was stressed, overwhelmed, or bored, those were the times I really struggled to stick to my diet. Usually I'd just overeat the free foods or the low point foods. Back then, I didn't recognize that I was still overeating and using food to calm and entertain myself. Eventually, those allowed foods just didn't do the trick, so I'd secretly binge on everything I wasn't supposed to have. Then, of course, I'd feel really guilty, and when I could finally muster up enough willpower, I'd start it all over again. It was exhausting. I was convinced that I'd figure it out someday, but that went on for 20 years. Back then, I just didn't realize that I was caught in a vicious cycle of using food to try to take care of myself while trying to restrict the foods I loved, which only made them more powerful. So of course I'd eventually give in, feel ashamed, then try it all over again. I noticed that a lot of my patients were struggling with similar patterns, but my kids weren't. Most of the time, they just ate when they were hungry and stopped when they were full. They certainly didn't feel guilty about what they ate or obsess about what they shouldn't eat. Food was just food, and play was just play. That's when I woke up. I wasn't flawed, and neither are you. I was just doing my best to be good and follow the rules. But that's the problem. Rules put us on a tightrope. What can I eat? When should I eat? How much am I allowed to have? How long will I have to exercise to burn it all off? One misstep and it's all over. It took me a while to figure it out, but eventually I created a wide path for myself that's nearly impossible to fall off. I discovered that awareness and flexibility allow me to make decisions based on what I want and need in any given situation. When I make a choice that doesn't work out well, and I still do, I simply observe the consequences, learn from my mistakes, and keep going. I know it sounds simple, maybe a little too simple, but it really is. We were all born to do this. My kids showed me that. It's just that most of us have forgotten how. For me, the tricky part was figuring out how to teach it to other people, but I'd found my passion and I was determined to figure it out. Despite my struggles with emotional eating, I'm a pretty logical thinker. In the course of writing my first book, I came up with the necessary structure that works beautifully for teaching people and for teaching people to teach people. I call our model the mindful eating cycle. It includes 6 questions that cover all the decisions we make about eating, conscious or not, numerous times a day. You may have seen it before, but I'll post it below just so you can take a look at the decision points. In the next video, I've invited one of the members from our mindful eating support community to help me demonstrate how you can use this cycle after overeating to figure out what happened and what you might do differently next time. Talk to you again soon.